Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another awesome episode of the Brew City Lounge. I am your host, Brandon. You can find me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. So happy to have you tuned in. Lots of Bucks and Brewers news to get into. Is MLB doing too much to ruin the game? We're going to dive into that. And awesome guest lined up for you today. Mr. Tim Dillard joins the show. He should be jumping on here any minute. Super excited to have him on. Get his thoughts on the early Brewers season. Is Corbin Burnes a Cy Young? Can this starting rotation maintain what they have? Is the offense going to wake up and stay awake and keep these pitchers getting these wins? Bucks and Brewers both get a win on Milwaukee Day. That was fun. What a phenomenal day that was. The Bucks win big time without Giannis, 130-105. Brewers win the series and the game with a shutout of the Cubs at 7-0. If you are tuning in, thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. I am going to be your host. And follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Also follow the show on Twitter and Facebook at Brew City Pod and on Facebook at Brew City Lounge. Super excited to have you guys tuned in. Lots to break down, lots to dive into. Like I said, Tim Dillard's jumping on here shortly. While we wait for him. We start talking about this Bucks game yesterday, kind of look ahead to what is going to eventually be a sticky situation, in my opinion. Once these playoffs do get started, you know that you have the number 3 seed currently. They are 3.5 games behind the number 1 seed in Philly. Philly and Brooklyn tipped off yesterday. Brooklyn sat KD. I'm not 100% sure why or if it mattered. They get a loss in Philly. Philly fans like KD here last night. If you didn't tune in, it was pretty good. James Harden also missed a game. Kyrie was back, I think, for the time being. I guess we'll see what happens with him. But the Bucks do win big time, 130-105. They got an early matchup tonight with Atlanta, 6:30 tip, I believe, Central Time. So that's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, the storyline there is Bogdanovich, the botch trade or the Woj fire up, whatever happened there. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bucks respond on a back-to-back coming out of Minnesota with a win. Is Giannis going to play? Is he not going to play? I know the game yesterday got an early switch with the time. It went from a 7 o'clock tip to a 3:30 tip. So it's going to be interesting to see if Giannis plays. I know when it comes to a back-to-back, they don't always have the injury report readily available. So it's going to be interesting. But a good game last night. A win's a win. I don't care how you get them, especially at this time of year, especially with the playoffs this near. You're fighting for the seeding, and so any win is a good win. Middleton leads the way with 27 points. Again, no Giannis. Drew Holiday had 15. Brooke Lopez had 18. And it was a win that you needed to have. There was no excuse to drop that game. There was none at all. Yeah, Pat Connaughton and Bryn Forbes both had 14 points off the bench. Very good game out of them. And we kind of look at the standings now. And now we're kind of playing this game of back and forth with the standings. Where do the Bucks currently sit? Well, right now they're at the 3 seed. And if you ask them, and if you kind of get any of the messages that they're sending, if you read a little bit between the lines, you can kind of tell that I don't think they care about seeding this year. Is that a mistake? It could be. Because this isn't the Eastern Conference of years past. The last few years you had top 2, maybe top 3 teams. And again, most people will say, it's probably going to be Philly, Milwaukee, or Brooklyn. And probably so. But your 1 through 6 is still pretty good in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you're talking about 1 Philly, 2 Brooklyn, Milwaukee's 3. Okay, that's your top 3 seed. I mean, if the season ended right now, Milwaukee would be playing in the 3 seed. They'd be playing against the New York Knicks. Now, we may laugh at the Knicks, whatever. Yeah, they are what they are. I mean, that's not. They're still on a winning record in an up and coming Eastern Conference. So you take it for what it is. But then you kind of look a little bit past the Knicks, and half a game out of the 6th seed is the Miami Heat. Is that a matchup? If you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, which if you're listening to the podcast, I really hope you are. If you are a Milwaukee Bucks fan, Are the Miami Heat somebody you want to play in the first round after what happened last year in the second round? Because if we look at it, there's probably not a better player in the NBA consistently that defends Giannis the way Bam Adebayo does. Now, when you look at it, yeah, sure. The Bucks have 34 wins. Miami has 28. Barely over 500 as they sit in the 7th seed currently. Again, half a game behind the New York Knicks. I anticipate that the Miami Heat will probably jump them, maybe even get all the way up to the 5th, maybe 4th seed. Just kind of depends. It's still a month away from the season. Just hypothetically looking ahead. What could happen if the Miami Heat and the Bucks face off in the first round? Because if you do look at it, you could also look at Boston could be in that number 6 seed. And the Bucks are kind of cemented, it feels like, in that 3 spot. Doesn't feel like they're moving a whole lot. They are 3.5 games out of the 1 seed, but they're 2.5 games out of the 2 seed. So there's a lot of movement that could happen. And we're all just looking at hypotheticals. Again, Bucks win big last night, 130-105. Matchup tonight with the Atlanta Hawks, 6:30 tip. Unsure about Giannis yet. We're just kind of talking about possible playoff matchups. It's always fun to get into the hypotheticals. And maybe none of this ever turns out to be true, but hey, it's fun to break down. So you kind of look at it ahead, next month, what the first round matchup could be. And in my opinion, in looking at the Celtics, Knicks, or the Miami Heat as your first round matchup. I'm not big on the Celtics, but I don't want to play them in the first round. I don't want to see Jason Tatum. God, do not want to see Marcus Smart anywhere, ever. So you kind of look at your first round matchup. Who's that going to be? And again, I don't want to see Boston. I really don't want to see Miami. I understand that Miami is probably benefited last year off of the bubble. And I don't think that they're going to be the same player, the same team that they were probably last year. But again, I don't want to see them. I don't want to see Bam Adebayo, if I can even say his last name, in the first round facing off against Giannis, defending Giannis. I just don't want to see it. So I think that that's going to be interesting. That's something to watch. Then you look over at Boston again, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart. Hey, these guys they're not Boston. I'm sorry, they're not Brooklyn. They're not Philly, but they're still really good. They're really good teams. They're teams with experience with one another. It's something Milwaukee doesn't have. And I think that that's something that we keep forgetting. This team has not played together. They have not had a full season to acclimate with one another. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens come playoffs and how this team responds without playing together. A lot of injuries. A lot of guys banged up. And again, most people say they're just resting till the playoffs, and that's what the NBA does. KD sat again last night. That's just kind of where the NBA has gone down. And it's honestly, in my opinion, it's a horrible product right now. But we're still gonna be here. We're still gonna root for him. We're still gonna go crazy for him. But let's see what happens come playoffs. Now, these Bucks have a long road to the finals ahead of them. You're talking in that first seed, they're possibly playing, like I said, Miami, Boston, maybe the Knicks. And then if you stick at the 3rd seed, you're getting into Philly or Boston in the 2nd round. And then if you get past one of those, you're playing one of them in the Eastern Conference Finals. This is just to get to the finals. So you have a hard road ahead of you. And I'm glad that Giannis is resting. I'm glad that some of these guys are sitting on some of these games. I feel bad for the fans that may have, purchased these tickets and they go to a Friday night game and nobody's there. Nobody's playing. You're watching Bryn Forbes bring the ball up to start the game. So I'm curious to see what happens with the playoff seeding going forward. I think that it is way too early. Absolutely. I mean, still a month away, but it's something to look forward to. Chris Middleton had a big bounce back game yesterday. You always know when Chris Middleton has a big game because you don't hear anything on Twitter. You don't see anything on Facebook. That's usually how an indicator that you know Chris Middleton had a good game. 27 points last night, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. Really good game. Brook Lopez, again, like I said, opening up the show, had a phenomenal game. 18 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Bench support last night with Pat Connaughton and Bryn Forbes, 14 points, both off the bench. But I'm asking you guys out there, I really want to get your feel for it. Any chance the Bucks come out of the East, in your opinion? And if you're tuning into the live show, I appreciate it. Tim Dillard will be joining me shortly. We're just breaking down the Bucks right now. And I'm really asking a serious question. Any chance that you think this Milwaukee Bucks team comes out of the Eastern Conference? And it's a question that is very hard because the way that it has been portrayed is that it's already a finals matchup between Brooklyn and more than likely the Lakers. And while we're on the NBA, thoughts and prayers go out to LaMarcus Aldridge. If you didn't miss the breaking news, LaMarcus Aldridge is retiring from the game of basketball. He just signed on a buyout deal with Brooklyn. He is citing some health concerns, and he did release a statement on Twitter. So our thoughts and prayers go out to him. Hopefully everything that he's going through is going to go well, and we wish him the best 15-year NBA career. But back to the Bucks. What chance do they got to come out of the East? And if you're on the live feed, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Follow us on Twitter on the podcast page at Brew City Pod. On Facebook at Brew City Lounge. We are presented by the Lounge Room Net. Brand new network. Super excited to be here. We are growing day by day. There's a podcast for almost everything. Jump on them. Find them on Twitter at Lounge Room Net. And let me know what you guys think. We're going to get into the Brewers talk. There's plenty of Brewers stuff to dive into. Super exciting stuff to dive into on the Brewers. But this Bucks team really is something that I'm concerned about. And I don't think it's so much the team. The most frustrating part about this Bucks team, yeah, they're injured. Giannis is injured. They're banged up here and there. The most frustrating part about this Bucks team is this is probably the best, most talented team that this team has had in the 3-year run that they've had. They're better than that 18-19 team. They're better than the 19-20 team. That talent is better. Drew Holiday is not Eric Bledsoe. The bench is younger. Kyle Korver's not coming out. Bobby Portis is coming out. Bryn Forbes is knocking down shots. Say what you want about Pat Connaughton. He drives me freaking nuts when he's jumping past everybody and biting on every pump fake. But the dude is shooting over 40% from three-point range this year. I mean, Jeff Teague. We've been calling for Jeff Teague for, I feel like, 10 years now. He's on the team now. He's coming off the bench. PJ Tucker, another guy that Bucks Nation has been calling for it feels like forever. So it's a question that I got out there. I really want to know, what chance do you have the Bucks coming out of these? Slim to none? Is it a good chance? A great chance? I mean, I'm indifferent about it right now. And if you ask me, I'm not sure. And I want to be on the bandwagon of the Bucks are getting at least to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I was texting with a friend earlier today. If they, depending on that first round matchup, I don't know if they get out of the first round. And that's crazy. You got the best player in the NBA. You got the reigning MVP, back-to-back MVP. You got the reigning Defensive Player of the Year award winner. That's crazy talk to think, will this team get out of the first round? The Eastern Conference is a lot better than I think people thought, and a lot better than I think people realize. You do not want to play Miami in the first round. There's not a better player in the NBA, in my opinion, that defends Giannis better than Bam. I don't want to see Jimmy Butler. I don't know the latest on Victor Oladipo. Maybe I don't know if his knee is healthy. I'm not sure. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see Tyler Hero knocking down 10 3-pointers or Goran Dragic hitting corner threes and nobody defending. I don't want to see that. So it's a really great question. How good and how tough this Eastern Conference is going to be. Now, maybe they can get to the 2 seed. I think seeding is important this year. I think when you're, the Bucks and maybe some, maybe the front office, maybe the players, maybe the ownership, they're thinking, well, we've had the 1 seed the last 2 years, and look what it got us. Last year doesn't really count. I mean, let's be honest. 2018, 2019, you should have had it. You fumbled on the goal line. Nick Nurse just flat out outcoached Coach Bud. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Former Brewers pitcher turned TV, sometimes broadcaster. You can find him on your TV, breaking down the Brewers over on Bally Sport TV. And you can also follow him on Twitter at Dillard. I promise you will not be disappointed. Tim, do you got me? And as he tries to figure out what's going on with his audio, it's a question that I want to ask for the Bucks fans. And when we get into this Brewer talk, we're going to talk about the Bucks after we break down some Brewer stuff. I mean, it's a question that I want everybody to answer out there. Is the Eastern Conference Finals where the Bucks are going? And now I'm joined by Mr. Tim Dillard. Tim, do you got me?
I think so. Did I do this right?
You're in. I can hear you. You're frozen on my screen, but that's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Former Brewers pitcher turned TV, sometime broadcaster. You can find him on your TV, breaking down Brewers over on Bally Sport TV. Also give him a follow on Twitter. I promise you will not be disappointed. Follow him on Twitter at Dim Tillard. Tim, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. Sorry I'm late.
You're fine.
Early.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I'm doing good. I had to make my couch bed. I'm sleeping on this thing, and I didn't want it to look like, I didn't want you to see my blanket, my pillow. So yeah, I turned it back into a couch. So I'm good to go.
I appreciate it. Just to give you kind of a little back on this is a brand new podcast. We're 3 episodes in. I think you're the 3rd. I had Dario on last week, so he was my first guest, and I know you know Dario very well. So
Yep.
You guys have been awesome. I appreciate you. First off, I do want to throw out there, congrats on your retirement. I know it was announced March 10th, I want to say, sometime around there from your professional baseball career. And so congratulations on that. And then how's working on TV now? How much different is it than being a professional baseball player?
Yeah, I'm definitely not used to that uniform yet. I got to wear a suit and look nice, and I had to get a haircut, and I blow dry my hair now, which is really strange. I don't know. It's just a different thing, but I want to be as close as I can to the game, right? If you can't play in the big leagues, be as close as you can. And I'm like 20 feet away from the warning track where I sit. So that's a pretty good gig.
And I mean, you get to go to the best stadium in all of baseball every day. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, and now we got fans coming. That's even better.
Yeah. I've been talking to fans on the concourse, and people come to games. I'm just walking around. I got nothing to do. I watched Corbin Burns pitch last night. Couldn't take my eyes off of that. And then once he was out, I was like, I can kind of relax and kind of watch a game, but I got to take notes, right? I'm an analyst. I got to analyze whatever I'm doing. I feel like I should have a microscope or a magnifying glass, but yeah, I'm an analyst.
So I'm going to ask you real quick.
Sure.
And I made this statement to a guy Tuesday on my show, local radio, Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. And I made the statement, and I was like, well, maybe, this is going to come back to bite me. And it very well may. But I'm going to stick with it, Tim, because I truly believe this. In my opinion, and you'll know this better than anybody. I think as a Brewers fan, lifelong Brewers fan, born and raised here, currently live here, this is the best starting rotation that I have ever seen in Milwaukee as a whole.
Yeah, I don't think that's that's factual. That's statistically correct. I mean, what you're seeing is pretty special. We're witnessing history in a lot of ways. But those are, 4 of those 5 are former teammates of mine, guys that came up through the ranks together. And all of those guys, we were together in Colorado Springs in AAA, which is like playing baseball on the moon, right? For a pitcher. So, the bonds that you create under that kind of pressure is pretty awesome. So to see these four guys come together as a team like this and just as a staff, and the way they help each other and encourage each other, it's pretty special. I think that has a lot to do with the foundation for this was laid, several years ago. So it's beautiful to watch come to fruition here.
And we kind of all seen it as a fan base. We watched it and, they all kind of came up together, like you said, and we kind of seen it start in 2018 and in the run that they had in 2018 and then going into where they're at now. What, in your opinion, when you're looking at these guys, you watch them. Actually, funny story about Colorado Springs. I used to live in Colorado Springs when I was stationed in the Army there, and I actually came to a couple of your guys' games. But I love the city. Right. But when you're watching these guys, Corbin Burns, Freddie, and Woody, I mean, when you're as a player, you're watching them and you see hundreds of other players. What's different about them? Is there, obviously there's nobody that prepares harder than professional athletes on any level. I don't care where you are. But so their preparation is there, but what sets them apart? What's different than maybe the other guys?
I mean, they were brought together by, the front office. David Stearns really went out and had a particular, maybe looking at, it goes from scouting, they put these guys together, but at the same time, you're right. Who's going to step up and do this kind of stuff. But what you're seeing is just talented guys that have learned to hone their skills and not be content with what they have. If you look at Burns, reinvented himself with a cutter. Freddie fastball is becoming Freddie Slide Johnson. The slider's nearly unhittable, And what I really like, you left out when you were bringing this up was Adrian Hauser. Adrian Hauser, this guy, I threw a lot like him early in my career, just, sinkers. And it's a different thing. If you try to fit him into a box that's like a Burns or a Woodruff or a Peralta box, he's just not that type of pitcher. And so I'm really for me, he's a dark horse. I think he's going to come out of nowhere. This is going to be his year. If he stays healthy, I think just now the Brewers are putting him in a way to go, this guy is not fitting in like these guys, but he's a different kind of pitcher. And to me, him and Brett Anderson are kind of linked in that way, mm-hmm. lefty and righty, but still with that sinker and ground balls, it's a different way of pitching. But yes, exciting club.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, like you said, and you're completely right. I did forget out Adrian Hauser, and he's sitting at a 1.80 ERA. I mean, goodness gracious. If you're looking at your 4 and 5 starters being Adrian Hauser and Brett Anderson, and whichever way you want to flip them, I mean, holy cow. I mean, and if this offense, and I think what people are also forgetting is they're a little banged up. Obviously, Locane's back on the IL with the calf strain. Obviously, Yelich, I don't think you put him on the IL, so maybe that's good news. And then Colton Wan's also. So, I mean, this team isn't even playing together yet. And you're 7 and 5. You've won 3 straight series that included the Cubs twice and the Cardinals. I'm super excited about this team, and I have high hopes for them. And I hope I don't get disappointed. But, I mean, right now, I think that we're kind of haven't even seen the beginning of it yet.
Yeah, you're allowed to have high hopes. It's when you start throwing expectations out there on guys, that's when you start feeling let down. But the potential's through the roof. The first thing they wanted me to, sum this team up when I first got here, hey, what do you see about this team? Sum it up in one word. And I said depth, and glad I was right on that occasion because I know a lot of guys that are waiting in the wings at the alternate site. And Tyrone Taylor got called up mm-hmm. just yesterday and he was in the game, but you look, they did these last few days without Kane, without Wong, without Yelich. And it just shows that, hey, they can compete everybody they put out there. Everyone has a different role. And I think that's what Craig Counsell does the best is he maximizes guys. He puts them in a position where they can really flourish. And you're always going to get guys playing out of position, right? Keston here is trying to figure out first base. But that's what's fun. We're on the journey with them. I'm out there and everybody's rooting for him. And to watch Urias coming around with his hitting and he draws a ton of walks, it's a very exciting team. It's action packed. I compared it to a Van Damme movie the other day, which I was like, can you say Van Damme on air? And they're like, every time I ask when I can do something on broadcasting, can I say this? They're always like, you can say whatever you want. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good thing, but
well, maybe we shouldn't
it's
say
action.
everything.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't say everything. But it's like a 90s action movie. Everywhere you turn, there's guys that have an interesting story and they're doing something very interesting on the field. Action packed.
Yeah, and you kind of hit on kind of something I wanted to bring up next was depth, and 100% agree with you, because you look at the guys of, okay, you bring in Avi last year, you obviously have Yelich, and obviously you have Locaine. Well, then they're like, oh, Jackie Bradley Jr. Like, what are we doing? We need A through Z, whatever the Brewers fans. And now you look at it and you're like, okay, Yelich is missing time, Locaine is missing time. Oh, you're not going to skip a beat because here's Gold Glove winner Jackie Bradley in center field. I mean, again, I'm homer as they get, Tim, and you'll know that going throughout the show. But David Stearns, to me, has just absolutely done such a phenomenal job in a sport that is very hard to compete with in the small markets. Yeah,
well, you look at their 20 in payroll. That's the bottom third, and it doesn't mean anything other than, okay, we got to figure things out. You have to manipulate the system a little bit and what that looks like and what they've put in place. And you guys don't get all the Zoom calls like we do. I get a link and I can hear players talk, and hearing Lorenzo Cain talk about having so many outfielders. This was about a week ago. He said, that's a good thing. It's a good thing because you get a day. Hey, you're banged up. Guess what? You don't have to press it. Here's a Gold Glover right here. Here's a guy that, played at Fenway Park with some amazing players and against some amazing rivalries. So, to have that, yes, it goes to depth, but at the same time, it keeps guys healthy. I know Kane's injury was just, running to first and he hit it funny with his quad. But he'll be back out there in no time. Yelich will be back out there. But here's the thing. They have the ability to let guys be day to day and to work something out, because I'm telling you, if you just went and fell down on the ground, you would hurt yourself. I would break a leg if I just went and dove in the grass. And these guys do it all the time. And so I played 18 years in the minor leagues of professional baseball. And I did it as a sidearm pitcher, but there's guys that do it for a long time, diving on the ground, swinging bats every day. Like, it's a very strenuous game. So for me, the depth goes for guys being able to take a day off, to take a rest, knowing that it's not going to factor too heavily in the game.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. And I think that, having that depth, obviously you're able to give guys more rest, and you're able to fill in spots in the depth that they've picked up. You're not skipping a beat, which is obviously helped out tremendously so far. Now, I got to get your thoughts. You mentioned you were a pitcher. Obviously everybody knows that. You're on a team that you're sitting on the bleacher, or you're sitting on the bench, and an opposing team throws behind your pitcher, your ace, Brandon Woodruff. And it's a team that you constantly have issues with. We'll say issues. What in your opinion, I mean, is it the unwritten rules of retaliation? And obviously I think the retaliation yesterday was throwing up 7 and getting out of there with a series win. Were you surprised that there was no retaliation? I mean, because I think if it's maybe somebody on your, the end of your, bench, and they throw at him and it is what it is, but I mean, that's your ace. Are you surprised that Craig didn't do anything?
I was kind of hoping he wouldn't. I mean, they're going to play these guys a ton for the remainder of the month. And, if they want to pick a time later on, that's fine too. I got no beef. Like, that's how baseball has always worked, whether the MLB steps in or not and regulates all that stuff. But in the heat of the moment, like, that just was really awful and bad. And so it just props on Brandon Woodruff. Like, if I was him,
oh yeah,
I would have ripped home plate out of the ground and thrown it, like that's where I was.
And we could have,
but he's a good old country boy like me.
Yeah.
It's like, this is stuff, this doesn't enter his mind. Like, I'm trying to play a game out here, and you guys are thinking about this. And so I hope that, he cleared his head when he got in. I think I bet pitching coach Chris Hook and Council both probably sat him down and goes, hey, you want to get him back? Go out there, get 3 up, 3 down, and get the team back in the dugout to score some runs for you. And that's what you saw in that game and yesterday. So to me, taking the higher road, like, it matters. It matters to the players of how are we going to define this team? So we're going to define this team by winning and not getting, caught up in a lot of the petty stuff. But yeah, if they want to retaliate later on, I think that's probably a better course of action than doing it immediately.
And I completely agree with you, because like the immediate answer is you want to, throw fists, but hey, I mean, you're at what game at that point? What was it? Game like, I don't know, 9 or 10 into a 162 game season. So yeah, let the talking put on the scoreboard in the standings. And I was completely fine with it. I was just a little bit shocked that there was no, retaliation. I know that, you know, how surprising it was that Wilson Contreras wasn't in the lineup that next day, but that is what it is. I can't stand him, but
well, maybe that played a factor. That could have played a factor.
Been. That's true.
Like maybe they were like, okay, we're going to hit this guy, and then he's not in the lineup. So they're like, all right, we'll just try to, beat him as badly as we can, like with the scoreboard. So like maybe that was a factor. I don't know. But here's the thing, though. You're right. If you in this scenario, you're putting me on the bench. Like, what do you think? That's one thing, but the team handles it. The team handles it. It has nothing to do with us. We can comment and analyze it all we want to, but it has nothing to do with us. I know broadcasters are going to have their opinions, but it's just their opinions. The team can do whatever they want. They know more about the situation. We just see what we see. We don't know the conversations that go on. So I saw a couple of coaches talking before the game yesterday. And, it was a friendly thing. I guaranteed that was brought up, but you could just tell, like, hey, we're kind of all in this together when it comes to baseball. Like, we're all trying to get through a long season, do the best we can. We all want to go to playoffs. So let's just keep this in perspective and try to keep it to the margins as much as possible.
Absolutely. And speaking from a former player, I mean, you were on that Brewers team, you know, guys on the team, you're plugged in better than anybody. Cole Hamels was quoted, I believe it was last year. He said, this isn't a rivalry, Cubs and Brewers. I mean, how do players feel about it? I mean, don't say too much if you don't want to, but what do players feel? Because I know as fans, like it's a rivalry. Absolutely. To us and to the Cubs. They hate us, that we hate them, as a player, as a former player, as somebody that knows, is plugged into that team. I mean, what are the players' thoughts on it?
I think we think way too far down the road as like as a member of the media, I guess is what I am now. And as a fan, like we look way down the road. Like that's our job, I guess. Like, hey, we want to see this. Players think very in the moment. They're thinking about that game. They're not thinking a week. That's a coach's job. Let them think about that. Players are going, okay, who do we have today? Oh, we're playing the Cubs. Like, okay. And they know like the energy is going to be a little higher. Maybe emotions can be a little higher, but that's about it. They were just going, okay, well, how do we match up? The hitters are trying to match up against the pitchers and the pitchers are trying to match up against the hitters. And it really is that simple. When you start trying to drag too much into it, I would say some of the most successful players that I know are just like, nah, I'm not going there. I'm going to worry about what I can do to help the team win. And that's it. I think it gets blown up on our end being in the stands and watching it. And, but as a player, it's really not, you want fun rivalries, but basically all that does is bring out the fans. Like that's what they love. They love the energy of the fans being involved in the game.
Yeah. And what a difference a year makes. Well, obviously last year at this time, we didn't have fans, but just the feel of, and you guys already know you're there every day, being there with fans, having that, background noise and having a different vibe in the stadiums. It's just a phenomenal year. Going outside of AmFam Field, what was your favorite ballpark that you ever been to, played in, to?
Yeah. Favorite major league ballpark is any ballpark. Any major league ballpark is my favorite ballpark because you're in the big leagues and big leagues is awesome. I don't know. I really liked, trying to think. I seriously, every one of them, even when we played at the old Marlins place where they played at the football stadium, it still had its quirks. And I'm just, as a baseball fan and being a player, I enjoy those parks. I enjoy all those, cool ways that they make baseball happen. So I like all the major league parks. They all have their own bit of character. Minor league parks, I've played in some really bad ones. I've played in some amazing ones. I really liked going to Portland back when Portland had a team. Okay. And because they played at a soccer stadium. It was an old soccer stadium dating back to like the 70s, I believe. And maybe before that. No, it was 70s. And they had like a huge wall in left. And they have like the street, so you can see like the trolleys going by. That's up cool. On top of the left field wall. Like it's really cool. And I don't know, that was always a fun place until it closed down, but that closed down like 10 years ago. So I'm dating myself, but I really like Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is it's Bricktown. So like you walk through there that has so much cool stuff. It's got like water, like a canal going through it. They have trolleys there now too. It's just a fun little cool place. Then you walk in and the ballpark's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, Colorado Springs was cool for me. Obviously, I when I lived there and the Brewers were there, that was awesome. But I love Nashville as a city. It's like one of
Oh,
my
yeah.
favorites. It's one of my favorite cities, and I think that we're probably not too far away from maybe them having a professional team. I mean, do you think that MLB is going to expand eventually?
Yeah, people have been sending me stuff all the last few days. I guess something must have came out, and this is something I've known about for a while. I live in Nashville, and I actually know people on this board to try to help bring Major League Baseball to Nashville. As far as the MLB Players Association, as of maybe 5 or 6 years ago, one of the things I was hearing is, you got possible places. Portland was actually on that list because Portland has a nest egg built up for a baseball team. I've heard Charlotte, Montreal wants to have a team back, but they have to have a new stadium. And of course, Nashville. So you got these 4 places, but you always have to have 2 teams, right? You can't just have one team. You got to bring in 2 teams, like with the Rockies and the Marlins. And then, let's see. Yeah. After that was the Rays and the Diamondbacks, right? Am I getting that right?
Yes. Yep. I could see a team in Vegas. No.
Well, so I saw the Vegas team, and the reason football is maybe working there is because they play once a week. So like if you're around the area, you can come there and play. I'm telling you, I've played a lot of times in Vegas for their AAA team. I know they got a new stadium there, and maybe they drew well in 2019. I didn't get a chance to go there. I'm sure they did. But to sustain that of 162 games 81 games for home, it's a tough gig. That's a tough gig because I went to a movie theater one time in 2008 to go watch Iron Man. We stayed at the Golden Nugget. That's where we stayed. And so I went to go see Iron Man. I was like, I'm going to see this movie. I can't wait. And I get in there and I sit down. Brand new movie theater, man. Like brand new. It was fancy and it was nice. And I walked in there and I was no lines at the concession stand. I was like, this place is amazing. And I went and sat down. This movie had been out for about 2 days. And I sat down in the movie theater and there was not another human being in that movie theater.
Wow.
You don't go to Vegas.
Yeah.
To watch movies. And I just don't think you're going to go to Vegas to watch baseball for that amount of time. So for me, I think they really need to probably fix Tampa Bay, whether that's a new stadium or a new location or whatever that looks like. And then possibly Oakland, get them a new stadium and all that, and then worry about expansion. So I still think it's maybe 5 years away.
Yeah, those are some good points. When you think about it, you automatically think like, oh, Vegas. Yeah, they got football and hockey and baseball would be great. But I guess, you're totally right. When the length of the season, it's not probably a smart decision. And so kind of transitioning, sticking on kind of the same thing, but a little bit different of MLB and everybody's favorite commissioner and Rob Manfred, who drives me nuts with the constant tinkering with the game. Leave it alone. Like it's one of the best sports, if not the best, to watch. I mean, there's so much that goes into it, and I don't think there's a better manager. Yeah, again, Homer. I don't care. Craig Counsell in the National League is the best. But now, so they did the 3-hit rule with the pitcher, and now there's the Atlantic League. I don't know if you saw. I think it came out a few days ago with the moving the mound back a foot. Trying to bring in offense into Major League Baseball. And I know you as a pitcher, me as a fan, I like seeing pitching duels better. And now they're talking about the double hook move. I mean, what are some of your thoughts on what could transpire maybe in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, they try to come up with all this stuff, and it's going to have to be a generational thing. If you want to move the mound back to 61 feet, then you need to start doing it in maybe high school or college, because if you start, and I saw that too, and they're going to do it I guess halfway through the season. And I played in the Atlantic League, and I know some of the coaches in there, maybe even some of the players still. And I got to tell you, if they move the mound back a foot, that is going to change everything.
Oh, it's
because
huge.
the way the baseball field is just put together mathematically is pretty awesome. So when you start tinkering with that, you're going to see some things. Here's the residuals that come from that. The ripple effect. Guys picking people off. You're going to have to relearn a pickoff move. So if that's the case, it's going to be longer to throw the ball to the plate. Guys are going to steal. So you'll see steals go through the roof. Guys that had stole 20 bags are going to steal 40 bags. Like that's the kind of jump that we're talking about. Catchers, Molina, one of the best catchers out there, he's got a pop time to throw people out. Well, guess what? He's not going to throw people out anymore. So there goes his numbers, and so maybe, but all of a sudden guys that hit maybe 30 bombs are going to start hitting 60 bombs because they have more time to react. and you're going to see just a slew of injuries from pitchers.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
whoever's in this Atlantic League, I played in the league. You don't get insurance. You don't.
God.
I mean, you get paid like $1,500 a month to play there. So they're going to be playing, and it's probably going to end some careers. So these guys are actually going to be very brave to try whatever MLB is trying to inflict on them. And but I honestly don't think you'll ever see that in Major League Baseball. If they really want to change something to give it more offense, they did that with the baseball a few years ago and got called out on it. So they fixed the baseball. They could just lower the mound an inch, right? Bob Gibson had that amazing year, and that's the first thing they did. They lowered the mound, and what that do? That stuck for 40 years. So to me, it's just do something very simple and lower the mound. I think you would still get a pretty good product of what's out there right now, but added with just a little bit more offense rather than completely ruining people's careers.
And honestly,
call me old-fashioned.
No, I'm completely with you. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, yeah, health concerns are huge. Like you're talking about, I mean, a foot is not, it's not, a couple inches. I mean, this is that to me, it's ridiculous. And you watched it last night. The Brewers pour in 7 runs. Okay, so there's your offense. Well, they shut the Cubs down, and 90 miles south of Milwaukee, the White Sox threw a no-hitter. I mean, the game's perfect, in my opinion, the way it is. You're getting the offense, you're getting the no-hitters, you're getting a little bit of both. And I think don't mess with the product. I mean, I know that whoever's in his ear, maybe it's him, they're trying to appeal to the younger generation, and that probably falls in on me. I mean, but still, I love the way the game is. It's disappointing to see it being tinkered, and it's frustrating as a fan. And I'm sure as a former player on all levels, it frustrates you as well.
Well, they actually tried something, maybe, I don't know, it's been maybe 5 or 6 years now, where it was a rule like you had to take the ball out of your glove or it wasn't a catch. And so this whole thing, and everybody's trying to figure out the rules on this. I don't remember what year it was, but they did it. It made it to Major League Baseball. They did spring training. They made it to Major League Baseball. I remember somebody for the A's catches the ball, crashes into a wall and out in the outfield and right field, hit the ground, got up, went to reach for the ball after he's on his feet and dropped it.
I remember
and
that.
You had umpires on the field going, no catch. Well, then you got runners that were tagging because they're like, oh, okay. So you got all this pandemonium.
Yeah. No
and you're
kidding.
sitting there going, what is going on? Because there's stuff like that you just can't tinker with, or it's going to have so many effects. And to sit there and think that they are going to tap into something to make it more appealing to a younger generation, maybe by creating more offense, but at the same time, they want to make the game shorter. That doesn't make any sense. I was at the game yesterday and there was still a lot of people there at the end of the game, but I have kids. So if I went to a game, we went to an All-Star or a game during All-Star break for AAA several years ago. I went to a Rockies Diamondbacks game in Denver. And I got 3 kids, right? So yeah, we stayed until about the 5th or 6th inning, and it was actually a close game. I didn't really want to leave, but that was my stage of life. Well, guess what? There's tons of people in all sorts of stages of life that don't mind sitting for 9 innings or 10 or whatever it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the other rule too that they implemented last year. I mean, starting the runner on second base, I'm not a fan about that. And extra innings, I don't like that either. I know
that's a tough gig.
Yeah.
That's a tough gig. I was one of the first ones. They did it in minor league baseball in like 2016 or 17.
Tough. Yeah.
Well, we didn't have a conversation about it as a club because we just were like, oh yeah, when that happens, that'll be crazy to see. But like, there's some sort of, I don't know what it is. I haven't even dug into it, but like, there's gotta be a strategic thing, home and road, what your defense does to prevent this run. Mm-hmm. But I remember I came into a game and, I got a guy on second base that's just standing there. He didn't even know if he's allowed to stand there, if he comes from the dugout after I'm done. So I'm throwing warm-up pitches. This guy's just watching every pitch I'm throwing. I'm just like, this is awfully strange. Catcher throws it down, like he moves, and there's just a dude standing out there. And then like, I don't think I did very well but it was very strange. And as someone that, got to do, I ended up doing it maybe 5 or 6 or 7 other times. It got easier, but it was still strange. So I want to know the conversations these guys are having to kind of prevent that. It's not the worst rule in the world. I think it works at the minor league level because these are guys trying to get to the big leagues. Last thing you want to do is have a guy in the bullpen that, could be called up tomorrow because of an injury, but he has to throw 4 innings. He has to throw the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th inning. Mm-hmm. And I've actually seen that up close. So I think it works in the minor leagues, but the big leagues, no. What you're doing is you're robbing the chance of a guy that in the minor leagues to get called up to fill a role. in that way. So I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody about what they really think of it yet. But I mean, for me, it's like they need to stop tinkering so much with Major League Baseball, because I think they're going to lose their older fan base all the while not gathering a younger base.
No. None of this is you don't hear 20-year-olds saying, I got to sit down and watch this game because there's a guy on second base to start the 10th inning. No, I think it's, and for a lack of a better term, I just think it's stupid. I think you're messing with a product that's been successful for over 100 years for a reason. I mean, it's been around for as long as it has for a reason. So the other rule I don't like is when you play double headers, 7, I mean, as a player, you guys probably don't mind going into the 7th inning for both games. But I mean, again, you're kind of taking away, what maybe a strength of a team is, playing 2 games with 7 innings.
It definitely changes. I've done both. I've done a bit of part of doubleheaders in the big leagues and the minor leagues. The minor leagues, I mean, you're playing 14 innings. You got these guys. It's like, hey man, the games can go by really quick, and some of them don't. Some of them don't. You end up playing 9 innings. But it is a different dynamic in that way. And I think it works at the minor leagues. I did it so much. I've seen it. I see it that it works. The big leagues doing that, I mean, and then you have to take a hiatus in between,
right?
So like say you're a guy and you're like, okay, well I can come to 1 game, and you go for 7 innings. You feel like you're robbed of 2 innings. Then the team goes in the clubhouse for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, and comes back out. You're just like, oh, now I can't really stay. I got to leave. So I don't know. I mean, just as a fan experience, I feel like I'm a fan. I would want to see 2 9-inning games, and I can choose which one to come to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And especially when, you got, teams like, managers and teams like Craig Counsell and the Brewers they utilize that bullpen throughout the stretch of a 9-inning game. And sometimes, that plays a role into it. Speaking of the Brewers,
I'll bring this up. Yeah. Bring that. You made a good point. Like,
absolutely.
So like in the minor leagues, and I'm going to use this as an example, but like 2019, I threw a complete game for the first time in like 10 years. And I remember I was very proud of it. It was a big moment. I was like 35 or 6. I think it was like 36. So like that was a big deal for me,
huge. Yeah,
just awesome. having such a great year or whatever. And I remember like I told someone that they're like, what was your favorite moment? And I said, well, I threw a complete game, at my age in the minor leagues. I did it in front of my kids, which I thought, I'm having this moment.
Really cool.
And the guy goes, oh, was it a 7-inning game or a 9-inning game? And I was like, it was a 9-inning game. So that brings up the point of, okay, you play 2 7-inning games. It's like, okay, here comes DeGrom, and he comes in and throws 7-inning complete game. Well, that tallies, that goes on his thing. It's not like a rain out. It's not like a rain out where you bang it and you're like, okay, well, it's after the 5th. We bang it. That's the rule. Everyone's cool with that. You get a complete game. It's the 5th inning. That's pretty rare. But you start throwing in double headers. I mean, DeGrom's going to go out there and throw 77 pitches, complete game, and good for him. But like, what if I'm another guy that's competing in complete game? Complete game.
Kidding.
It's like, okay, well, maybe I don't have that opportunity. So it does mess with stats a little bit when they change and they have some of these rules.
Yeah, and I think as Craig Counsell was quoted, I think yesterday, he said kind of the same thing. Like, they're making a lot of changes, and we'll see how it plays in the long term. And I mean, I don't know. I hope that they keep it. I think they've done enough, to be honest with you, that I don't agree with. So hopefully they keep it as is and no more crazy changes. Looking ahead to the Brewers, and I'll get you moving here soon. I know you're got a rare off day today, right?
Yeah, I mean, but for me, every day is an off day. I mean, I just, hey, we want you to show up and talk baseball. I'm like, okay, cool.
Working with Dario is pretty fun. But so you're looking at the Brewers. It's obviously way too early to look at standings. To me, though, I look at 3 divisional series wins, all in a row early in April is always a good thing. Everybody says, well, it's a long year, but we've gone to August and September before where we look back at the schedule and we're like, man, we could have just won one game against, Cubs or the Cardinals. So looking ahead in the division, how do you see the Brewers fitting in for the long haul? In my opinion, they're the best team in the division. I think they're the deepest team in the division. But your opinion, you know more than me, so I want to hear your opinion.
No, I probably don't know more than you. I don't know. I should, but I'm not good at my job yet. No, I would say you look at the team and how many weapons they have. You're like, they're a tough team to beat. Like, and you don't just say that because you're biased. You're like, they got starting pitching, the best starting staff in baseball, and they're scoring runs, and they don't have 3 of their, best players out there. that they've spent money on. So you're kind of like, wow, what the potential's through the roof. Yeah. So they're a tough team to beat. But I didn't know this until I saw a Zoom recording of with Brandon Woodruff talking about the schedule specifically for April. And Woodruff said however they list this, I don't know how the stat works, but they say they have the toughest schedule of anyone in baseball in the first month. So Here we are halfway through. Yeah. So halfway through, they're 7-5. I mean, that's a pretty good gig. You double that, it's 14-10. That's not terrible. Like to get through a tough month, if you come out on top in a tough month like that, that's a really good sign. Not that the schedule gets that much easier, but it has a lot to do with travel, has a lot to do with, rivals, and it has a lot to do with how that's structured. So for them to get through this month might be the biggest thing they can do to get into October.
Yeah, and I think what you do at this early in the season, again, it's super early. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but you're setting the tone to the division. You're like, okay, Chicago, we're going to come into Wrigley, win 2 out of 3. Okay, Busch Stadium, it's the opening weekend for them. We're going to win 2 out of 3. And then back at AmFam Field with Chicago, and we're going to take another 2 out of 3. You're setting the tone, and you're doing it with pitching and hitting and bullpen. And I think that, everybody says, oh, it's early, we'll let it, it's not a big deal. I think it's a big deal. I think you're setting the tone really early that, you're here to play. And looking past the division, obviously the Dodgers, maybe the Padres, if they stay healthy. Tatis, I think, is out. And then Atlanta, I know they've had a really slow start, but obviously, what are your thoughts on maybe the NL as a whole? Like, is this something that are the Brewers on the same level as the Dodgers, Padres, Atlanta is basically what I'm asking. And I just use too many words to do it.
No, it's hard to tell. It is early, but like they're in their interleague play, I think is going to play a factor because they're playing the AL Central this year. So they got like the White Sox and Cleveland. These are some really good teams that have been doing some pretty great things. So to me, that may be tougher than facing, maybe some of the other guys are facing, the Cardinals or I'm sorry, the Red Sox or the Yankees and how that plays into, their standings. But I don't know. It's always tough to win on the West Coast for whatever reason, but they got that coming up. They go to San Diego here soon. Mm-hmm. I don't think players look too far ahead. So for me, kind of still trying to hang on to that, who I was as a player, it's hard to look too deep. Honestly, players don't look that long in the future. They just take it one game at a time, one series at a time. How many clothes do I have to pack to go to San Diego? Should I bring my swim trunks? But for us, I get it. Yeah. I like their chances just because I've seen it up close and personal, what they can do in this starting rotation. Just like you said, it sets the tone for every team they play. They're going to go, okay, we got to get past this starting guy. Not that that's much better when you got someone like Devin Williams or Josh Hader waiting in the wings in the bullpen.
One more baseball related question. And I'm gonna let you get going. Were you? I could go all day. I mean, I love picking your brain. I mean, I appreciate you jumping on. Were you surprised at all by the Arcia trade? I'm a huge Urias fan. I think that trade. Obviously, you needed to bring him in and get him some time. I loved Arcia though. He was obviously a fan favorite. You probably played with him down in the minors. Awesome to me, an awesome dude, awesome player. One of the best defensive shortstops in the league, had his time at the plate, very clutch player. Were you surprised at this early in the season that was something that David Stearns pulled the trigger on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they had value for him, and I guess they had Wong at second. Urias is going to be their guy at short, and I mean, Travis Shaw started off, still is super hot. So they probably wanted more production from third, but they felt bad. They didn't want him to sit on the bench, right, and just be that extra guy. To me, like right away when Wong got hurt, everybody's going, oh, okay, well, here we go. Would you rather have Arcia off the bench or one of the other guys they have? But I know him personally. He's made some amazing plays for me personally. I've seen him do some things on a baseball field that I've never seen another human being do in a fantastic way. Plays that he's made for him to play in Colorado Springs and just dive all around and then get up the next day and dive all around again. He has more baseball sense and just intuition. And he was doing this at 20 when I was with him. I've never seen that. He's a special player. I was sad to see him go. And I mean, if they get 2 pitchers for it, great. Maybe we need pitching in a few years or whatever, but man, he's such an unbelievable fielder. He won a Gold Glove in Double-A, and it's not like he's going up against 15 other teams like in the big leagues. He's going up against like all of the minor leagues for shortstop, and he won it.
Yeah, that's
like,
crazy. Yeah.
Statistically, that's actually harder to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I saw it, the news kind of break, I was a little heartbroken. I was excited for Luis. I'm excited. Obviously, what a huge game he had the other night and yesterday as well. So I was excited for him, to kind of get his spot. And obviously David Stearns in the front office we're ready for him as well. So I guess we'll see how it plays out. But are you planning any funny videos? I know you do the lip dub. Are you doing any with Dario or Craig Kashawn or maybe BA or Rock? Are you getting them in any?
Yeah, I mean, that's a topic of conversation every single day we go in there. And I've had Dario on some. We did Billy Madison the other day. Okay. I got several in the works with Craig. That's why I'm not a big fan of this off day. I'm sitting around here. I'm like, podcasting's not great. That's awesome. But I just, man, I'm like, I want to go to the field. I have a pass card. Maybe I could get in, but I got so many things I want to do.
You need somebody to, catch some fastballs for you. I'll jump behind the plate at AmFam. I live 10 minutes away, Tim. We can make this happen. All you got to do is ask.
You got a couch back there?
I got a couch.
I got an armchair.
I got a
couch. Pretty good.
Hey, yeah, we're ready to rock. So I'm
always looking for the next couch.
I got to make sure when I'm at AmFam Field, hopefully I'll be there soon. Drop by, say thank you. I appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Tim Dillard. You can find him on Twitter at Dim Tillard. His real name is Tim, at Dim Tillard. I promise you, if you jump on his Twitter feed, you will not be disappointed. Catch him on Valley Sport TV. We're at Brewers pre and post game. It's so awesome to see you on TV. Your perspective on it. I think it's a huge ad for that network, for fans and for everybody really involved. So awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I know you're you're busy, so I appreciate you jumping on. I hope that maybe in the near future I can get you back on, get some more Brewers breakdown. And it was, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm at the field all the time, even when I'm not working. I'll be there tomorrow, just kind of roaming the halls, eating the food, and watching a ball game.
Yeah, 3-game set against Pittsburgh, correct?
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if everybody out there, if you see me, just, come say, hey, I'm not doing anything. I'm just there to enjoy some baseball.
And I put it on my Twitter. I said, the man, the myth, the legend, Tim Dillard, because you are, really though, you're on the Brew City Lounge podcast and it's, appreciated, but you are an awesome person. We are thankful to have you on, thankful to have you on our TVs, thankful to have you in our city and our ballpark. So if you're at the stadium, do not be afraid. Go and say hi. I think you even give away free autographed merchandise. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the other day I was like, I'm going to give something away. I said, first person that kind of had to get a catchphrase, and I forgot what it was. It was the platypus can't be trusted.
It was, yeah.
So the entire game, so the pregame, nobody said anything. And then we're doing the postgame and we're in the last commercial break. And I was like, man, I can't believe no one's done that. I was telling Dario, I was like, I can't believe no. Finally, a gentleman comes over, leans over the rail. He looks around, undoes his mask and says, the platypus can't be trusted. I was like, yeah,
finally.
So yeah, finally I gave him some of my merchandise. I call it my dim crap. So yeah, he seemed pretty excited about that.
I'll make sure when I'm there. I believe I'm coming next month. We're actually gonna be doing a show live from the parking lot. So I'm excited about that.
Hopefully I'll be out there. I've been trying to scope they get tailgating's back, right? So I've been trying to get out there with a microphone, but so far they've told me I can't do that. So
yeah, I probably, certain protocols in place. We want to keep you as safe as possible. You got to put you in bubble, right, Tim? We can't lose you now. You're here to stay. You're here to stay for good.
If that happens, it's like, I fell. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the time. Hopefully we'll get back together in the near future and maybe celebrate a World Series eventually. That would be phenomenal.
That would be great. Awesome.
So,
thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it, man. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
That is Tim Dillard, ladies and gentlemen. That was awesome. I absolutely love following him on Twitter. He is hilarious. If you do get the opportunity to jump on Twitter, give him a follow at Dim Tillard. And kind of going off of a little bit of what he was saying, some of his thoughts with where the Brewers are, where they're possibly heading. Obviously with the division, where they stand in the NL, there's a lot, to break down there. But I mean, I'm kind of with him. You got the number one team as far as starting pitching. Your offense is kind of starting to turn around. Hopefully, you get guys like Yelich back and Colton Juan and Low Kane. But yesterday's game, my goodness, if you missed it, whew, I'm sorry for you. Corbin Burnes, 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 10 Ks, just lights out. And it's been that way all year. This is not breaking news. This wasn't a Corbin Burnes had a good game and now he's, he'll go back to falling down to back to earth. No, this is the Corbin Burnes again, ladies and gentlemen. I told you guys a couple of days ago, he's the best pitcher in the major league since last July. I mean, he has the best ERA. I think he's at 0.4 now for the year. Best ERA in baseball going back to last year. Number 2 in strikeouts and number 4th in WHIP. I mean, that's phenomenal. And then you're talking about, okay, if Corbin Burnes isn't your ace, I mean, I guess he's not, but you throw Woody out there. Woody's just as good. Number 3 starter. Freddie Peralta is your number 3 starter, and he is maintaining what he is at right now. You guys, we're going to be doing some damage come October, come September, and it's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to the Brewers season, as a whole, getting guys back healthy, getting, games under our feet, more than 12. I know Brewers sit at 7-5 right now, currently head of the division, got a 3-game set against Pittsburgh. Hopefully Pittsburgh woes don't continue. For whatever reason, this team seems to struggle against Pittsburgh. So it'll be exciting to see what happens this weekend. We will see what happens with Giannis tonight. Bucks tune in. Tip off at 6:30 against Atlanta. Obviously, the headline there: Bogdan Bogdanovic would have been without Woj, a Milwaukee Buck. So that'll be fun to watch. We're gonna break down that Bucks game, Brewers series. Come on Tuesday. That'll do it for today's show. Again, I am your host, Brandon. Please follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. I am very interactive. I want to get your thoughts. I want to hear your opinions on anything related, even some Packer talk. We'll tune it into all things Milwaukee. I greatly appreciate your guys' time for tuning in. Don't forget to jump on Twitter and Facebook. Follow the Twitter page, the podcast page on Twitter at Brew City Pod. Follow the Facebook page at Brew City Lounge. I will talk to you guys on Tuesday. Go Bucks, go Brewers.